Say got it. Click on got it.
अभी स्लाइड पे चले जाओ।
Close your YouTube.
Hello everyone, welcome to Networkers Home live YouTube session. Today we have our senior trainer Ramesh Naik. He has 9+ years experience in multi-vendors like Windows, Linux, virtualization, security, and cloud. Today he will explaining about Ec2-Vpc Basics. Handing over the session to Mr. Ramesh Naik.
Hello and everyone. Okay, so in today's topic, we are going to discuss about Ec2-Vpc Basics. Ec2-Vpc. So this service provided as infrastructure as service from AWS Cloud. Okay, so first of all, let's understand what is infrastructure. So in company, if you are planning to host some service like some web service, means web server or web app server or database server, something, usually first of all, we need to set up infrastructure, like need to set up like networking. So for that, need to use like a router, switches, and their connectivity. And you also need to like purchase like public IP address if you want to like expose your services to internet. Then you have to purchase servers where you can host your services. Then you have to purchase storage for your servers. And if you are hosting your services in a virtual machine format, so you have to purchase like virtualization software as well. Okay, when coming to the cloud, so you no need to manage any infrastructure. So you can utilize some services which are provided as infrastructure as service. Like for example, from AWS Ec2-Vpc. So EC2 computing service and VPC networking service. So with the VPC, you get networking features and security features. With EC2, you get computing features and you get storage features and other options like you can take backup and restore your data. So what is infrastructure? It is a basic building block for your IT. Okay. So when you look at infrastructure as services, okay, some services like for example VPC that provides networking feature here. And coming to storage, there is the EC2 service. EC2 service provides storage. Okay, the service actually storage name is EBS. Okay, that falls under compute service only. Coming to servers, you can create virtual private servers. Okay, so means in the cloud you no need to manage any networking hardware, storage hardware, or server hardware, or any underlying virtualization. So this thing completely managed by vendor. So what you do, you just create a VM. So infrastructure is already there. What you do on infrastructure, you set up your platform. Okay, you create virtual machine by selecting your choice of operating system. Once virtual machine created, you log into that virtual machine, then you install required middleware runtime. You install all required middleware runtime, then you can install your application services, then you can host your data. Okay, for example, let's assume you are going to run some web application. So let's say, for example, let's say you are going to run application that based on PHP language, means you have application code using PHP. And you are going to serve that PHP application through web service. So you need to install some kind of web service over there. Okay, and your application is what? That is in the form of PHP application, PHP code. Your application is in PHP code. And coming to web service, it's up to you, okay, which web service works better for you. In case Windows, you can use like IIS. In case Linux, you have like Nginx, Apache, which is HTTPD, okay, like that. So in case if you are planning for like a Linux, okay, you can go with like HTTPD service. Okay, and if you want to host some database, so you can go host database as well. So for example, let's say you want to use database. So you can go with like NoSQL or MySQL database. Let's say your application uses MySQL, so you can install MySQL database. And what about the operating system? So that you have to decide. Okay, so before we place application on server, okay, for production environment, so we test them in testing environment. Okay, so you can try to run your application on like a Linux platform. Again, on Linux platform, you can try different Linux distribution, which works better for you, or maybe Windows platform. Okay, let's say your application runs better on Linux, let's say particularly CentOS. So you can go with OS, which is Linux. So particularly you can consider CentOS Linux. So here you see, you are going to use operating system using what? Linux. And coming to application, that's based on what? PHP code here. Coming to web service, you are going to use HTTP. Coming to database, you are going to use like MySQL. You can call it as something like LAMP stock. Okay, so you may had okay LAMP stock, some kind of okay terminology somewhere. So LAMP stock, nothing but your operating system is Linux, and your application code is based on PHP. And coming to your database, you will be using like MySQL database. And coming to web service, you are using like HTTPD. Okay, that is Apache Web Service. So that stands for LAMP: Linux, Apache Web Service, MySQL database, and PHP application. So this one represents what? A platform with your application here. Okay, so we have infrastructure here. What we do here, we set up our platform. We have underlying infrastructure that already managed by vendor. What you do, you set up your platform. Means you create a VM, selecting your Linux OS. Upon that, you install like your application runtime. So what is your application code? It's based on PHP. So you can install PHP runtime. And you want database, so you can install like MySQL database. And your PHP want to talk to MySQL. Okay, PHP application will be writing data to MySQL or maybe reading data from MySQL. So here required some dependency. Okay, like for example, PHP MySQL. That allows your PHP to interact with the MySQL database. Or if there any other dependency required, so we can install them. So here middleware is nothing but what are the dependencies required here. After that, what we do, we put your PHP code. Means we place here the PHP code. Now PHP code will run by runtime, which is PHP runtime installed here. Then whatever the data you are going to serve through your PHP application, so you have your data over there. So now you want to serve your PHP code through web service. So what you do, so you install like Apache Web Service. Apache Web Service. Okay, so before we discuss more about okay Ec2-Vpc, let's have a look at AWS Global Infrastructure. So AWS deployed the data center globally. Okay, AWS has the largest global infrastructure footprint. As you see on this slide, so there are, you can see many locations. Like for example, you see Ohio region, Asia Pacific, Mumbai region, and Tokyo region, Singapore, like that. Okay, AWS maintains the data centers region-wise. And within region, there are availability zones. So now let's have a look at a region. So for example, you take a region 1 here. Within region, so there are multiple availability zones. So here region represents just geolocation. Within region, there are multiple availability zones here. You take any other region, you can see there are multiple availability zones. So region represents geolocation here. And what is availability zone? This is physical data center. This is actual data center. Okay, and why there are multiple availability zones or multiple data centers within region? Okay, so when you look at each availability zone, it has its separate network and it has its separate power supply. And you take availability zone, this region also has its own separate network and also has separate power supply. Okay, if somehow one agent goes down, it's not going to make impact on another agent. And again, all these agents are interconnected through high-speed redundant fiber links. High-speed redundant fiber links over there. So when you are creating something, like you are creating some server or storage or some other Amazon Web Service, so you select a particular region, and within that region, you are going to place it in a specific agent. So for example, let's say you are planning to run a web app server. Let's say you selected region 2, and you can place, let's say, your web app server 1 in availability zone 1. And okay, fine, you have a server running over there. Now there are the chances of failure. What kind of chances? Maybe agent goes down for a few minutes to few hours. Why? There may be underlying network issue, maybe power failure issue, or maybe you just did some configuration on your web app server, means additional configuration, or you did some patching, something went wrong. What will happen? Your service will be down. So what are the chances for your service down? Agent level problem, maybe power issue or network issue, or maybe it's problem with your web app server, means this is your virtual machine which you created inside agent 1 here. Okay, now to avoid single point of failure, so what you can do, you can deploy another copy of server in another availability zone, like web app 2 here in another availability zone. So that's nothing but your virtual machine. And you can load balance traffic between these two servers using other Amazon Web Service like a ELB, Elastic Load Balancer. Okay, ELB, that's AWS Managed Load Balancer. So that deployed across multiple availability zones to avoid single point of failure. And you connect your ELB to internet and ELB to web app 1 and web app 2 server. So now ELB can receive user request and it can distribute user request, means towards this web app servers here. And ELB can do many things. Okay, it can do service health check on both servers. Okay, let's say this service is not healthy. Let's say your web server is down. ELB can recognize. Okay, then it can forward all user requests towards web app 2 here. Okay, you can consider servers from other availability zones also here. And if you want to replicate something, or you want just communication between this web app 1 and web app 2 server, we depend on that high speed fiber link. We do not use any internet over here. Okay, like that. Okay, what if region itself goes down? Your service is down. Okay, so what you can do, so you can deploy another set of servers in another region. Okay, like you can have like a web app 3 here in agent 3, like a web app 4 here in agent 1, like that. Okay, can you load balance traffic between the regions? Of course, you can do that. There are other AWS services you can utilize. You can use Route 53 service, or you can use like a GA service, Global Accelerator. So using this service, you can load balance traffic across the servers belongs to different regions here. So this service connected to internet. Okay, that you can do. So you can deploy your server within single region, within single data center, or you can deploy your server across data centers within single region, or you can deploy your servers or services across multiple region to avoid, okay, like in case region failure. Okay, now the question is how AWS is going to isolate resources belongs to different customers. Let's say I have my AWS account and you have your AWS account. Let's say both of us using region 1. So how AWS is going to isolate resources belongs to your account and my account. So for that, AWS uses VPC. VPC stands for Virtual Private Cloud. Okay, so within region, let's say this is the region 1. So within region 1, so let's say there are 2 accounts. Let's say AWS customer A, that is my account, customer B, that is your account. So before you place anything inside a region, you have to create your VPC. You have to create a VPC. Let's say as accounting, my account, I create a VPC, like something called as main network A. And as an account B, what you do, you create a VPC, like main network something. Within that, once we create a VPC, so within VPC, we can place our services like server, storage, okay, and other AWS services.
Sir, I have a question.
Yes.
Sir, is it must to create a VPC here?
It's optional. By default, there is a VPC created for you. Once you create your AWS account, there is a default VPC for you. So instead of like creating VPC and other things within VPC, you can start directly launching and placing servers in your VPC.
Okay, sir.
Okay, now let's see in detail about the VPC. So before we create a VPC, so first of all, we log into AWS, then we select a region. Once we select a region, we give a network ID. We give some name tag like main network 1 something, and we give network ID like 10.0.0/16. Okay, so VPC created here regional level, and within region there are availability zones. As you can see, availability zone 1A, availability zone 1B. Okay, and you create subnets within availability zone. Like you create subnet 1 like 10.0.10/24. Take main network ID, from there do further subnetting. So I'm going to use /24 CIDR block here, like subnet 1 10.0.10/24. I say place it inside availability zone 1A. And then I create subnet 2 10.0.20/24. I place it inside availability zone 1B here. Okay, now once we have subnets, when we create servers, like we create web servers or app servers, DB servers, means virtual machines. While creating them, we select particular subnet. Let's say I select subnet 1, it placed it inside subnet 1, means it placed it inside availability zone 1A here. Like here, we can say like web app 1, DB1, they are inside subnet 1, means they are placed inside availability zone 1A. Okay, so to avoid single point of failure of servers, what we can do, we can place servers in other agent as well. So like we can create web app 2, DB2, and we place them in subnet 2. That means they are placed inside availability zone 1B. Okay, as I said, within region, mostly you can see at least 3 availability zones. If you go to some new regions, okay, mostly you can see single or 2 availability zones. Okay, time to time, AWS will add more availability zones. Okay, as of now, there are many regions. Okay, within region, there are mostly minimum 3 availability zones. So here I created subnets only in availability zone 1A and 1B. If you want to create subnets in other agent, you can do. When, let's say I want to create servers in another agent. So like first, let's say in availability zone 1C, what I can do, I can create subnet and place inside that availability zone. Otherwise, no need to create subnets in other availability zone. Now, what about the reachability between these subnets? There is a VPC router. As soon as you create a VPC router created. And as soon as you create a subnet, a LAN connection created from that VPC router to that subnet. Okay, here you can see a connection from VPC router to subnet 1 and a connection from VPC router to subnet 2 here. Okay, and this VPC router managed by AWS. VPC router managed by AWS, and you don't need to worry about single point of failure for VPC router. As long as at least one agent is up in within region, your VPC router is there. So this VPC router provides reachability between your subnet 1 machines and subnet 2 machines. Let's say web app 1 to talk to web app 2, it can say from 10.0.1.10. So this is IP address taken from subnet 1. Okay, here we have 10.0.2.10, that IP address from subnet 2. Either you assign it manually or automatically assign it. So you can say, if you want to communicate from web app 1 to web app 2, you can say from 10.0.1.10, destination is 10.0.2.10. Okay, so reachability between these subnet servers will take place through VPC router. Okay, so that communication will be via AWS fiber network. Okay, that connects availability zones together within region. Okay, now what about the internet? Okay, you have web app server running here. How you are going to make this web app server available to your users through internet? Okay, before we proceed, so this VPC is pure private network. It's like, you can think it's like pure private data center region wise. Okay, but subnet represents your specific location within a data center, means in availability zone here. Now, in order to provide internet connectivity to our VPC, we create internet gateway. So internet gateway is another router. VPC router is another router that enables reachability between subnets. Internet gateway is another router that provides connectivity to ISP. Means to that ISP, means whichever ISP exists within that region here. And VPC router and internet gateway, these are the virtual router devices. They are managed by AWS. And by default, they are available because their underlying resources deployed across multiple data centers to avoid single point of failure and managed by AWS. And you have no option to log in here on VPC router or internet gateway. They're completely managed by AWS. Okay, but what about the routing? So we have no option to log into internet gateway, and we have no option to log into VPC router. So for that, we have a routing table folder there. So we can update entries within that routing table. Okay, by default, let's say without internet connectivity. So just say you have a VPC and 2 subnets over there. There will be a routing table folder. Within that, what we see, local network entry. Okay, that says 10.0.0/16. That's your main network. That is local. And this routing table applied to both the subnets. So to provide internet reachability routes, we add default route entry to routing table. So we go to routing table and we add default route entry 0.0.0.0/0 reachability via internet gateway. And this routing table available to all your subnets here. Now, again here for web app server, we need to assign public IP address. Like we have private IP address here that's taken from our subnet 1 range. Okay, and we have public IP address separately. Either we can assign public IP address automatically, or we can assign public IP address manually to that web server. So anybody from internet so want to access your web app server, so they are going to access this server using the public IP address here. Okay, so now let's have look at VPC. Okay, here I am in AWS Management Console, and here we can see multiple regions available. We can see like a North Virginia region and Ohio region and California region, okay, like that. Okay, now let's go select some region. So click on this. So coming to here, so you see region list. So for example, I select Asia Pacific region. Okay, so from here, okay, this is a control dashboard. Here you can click on services. It shows all AWS services. And here you can see list of services from AWS from different IT domains, like analytics service, application integration, compute, and Docker containers, database, and also you can see networking. Okay, like robotic service. And here you can see networking domain. So if you click on here, so you can see different networking services again from AWS. You can see VPC. So which isolates resources. So let's click on VPC. Okay, so there is a default VPC for you. So in Singapore region, and you can see there is a VPC, and there are subnets, 3 subnets. So within Singapore, there are 3 availability zones. Per agent, there is a subnet. And there is also internet gateway, and that's attached to VPC. Then there is a routing table that includes local network entry and default route entry as well. Okay, for example, if we go look at your VPCs, there we can see VPC. And we can see network ID over there. So it is 172.31.00/16. And coming to subnets, so there we can see there are 3 subnets and 1 subnet per agent. So these are the availability zones, means data centers, like 1A, 1B, 1C. Or we can call them as like agent 1, agent 2, agent 3. And coming to internet gateway, so there is internet gateway and it is attached to this VPC. And coming to route table, so there is a default routing table called as main routing table that apply to all the subnets you create by default. So if you look at the routes, we see local network entry and also default route entry via internet gateway here. So if you're okay with this default VPC, you can just launch your servers and place it in particular VPC and in particular subnet. Okay, or you want to create custom VPC, you can do that. So when you can consider creating custom VPC, you want different network ID range, not 172.31 this series. Okay, you want to use other things, so you can do that. So what I do, let me create a custom VPC here. Okay, so we can keep this default VPC, then we can create custom VPC, or you can delete this default VPC, you can create custom VPC. Okay, to make things understand easier, so what I do, let me just delete this default VPC. Select it, actions, delete, it says it's going to delete these resources like VPC and other things like internet gateway and subnets. Okay, acknowledge that. And it says you have to type delete default VPC. Delete default VPC. Then click on delete it. Okay, so there we have no VPC right now. Okay, now let's create a custom VPC. Click on create VPC. So it's giving option, just create VPC in this page or create VPC subnets, other things within this single page. Okay, you can go with any option. Let me do one by one. Okay, I will select VPC only. Let's call it as main network 1. And it asking the one to use IPv4 block, IPv6 block here. So you can create a VPC with IPv4 block only or with IPv6 block only. Or you can use both IPv4 and IPv6. So I go with IPv4. So let's say network ID is 10.0.0/16. Then click on create VPC. Okay, now let's go create subnet. So in Singapore, there are 3 availability zones. If you want to run your servers in all those 3 availability zones, so you can create subnets in those 3 availability zones. Okay, so let me create subnet here. We say create it within VPC main network 1. And what is the subnet name? Let's give name as subnet 1. So you can give any meaningful name here. Coming to agent, you can say place it in any agent, or you can tell place it in a specific agent like AP Southeast 1A. And coming to CADR block, I will go with 10.0.10/24. Then click on create. Or you want to create other subnets, you can do here. Like add new subnet. Let's say it's going to be subnet 2. I place it in another agent like 1B. Coming to CADR block means network ID 10.0.20/24. Then I will add another subnet. Let's say it is subnet 3. Availability zone as 1C. It is 10.0.30/24. Then click on create subnet. Okay, so that's it. We have one VPC. That's at 10.0/16. And we have 3 subnets, subnet 1 to 3. And coming to internet gateway, we need to create. So create internet gateway. Let's call it as main network internet gateway, or simply let's give name as internet gateway. Okay, click on internet gateway. Okay, now every resource you create will have a resource ID. Like this is the resource ID for VPC. And you can look at the subnet. You see, this is the resource ID for subnet. Okay, it may be difficult to identify for what purpose you created those subnets. So that's why we can use name tags here. So whatever we see here, right, these are the tags. Name is name, and whatever the value is there, it's a subnet here. Okay, so we have VPC, which is main network 1. Internet gateway, we have IG1. So you want to edit name tag, you can do that. Let's say it is the internet gateway for main network 1. So next step is we need to update route table. In case default VPC, route table updated with default route entry by default. In case custom VPC, we have to do manually. Let's go to routes. Here we can see there is local network entry that says 10.0/16 is local. Now let's add default route entry through internet gateway. Through internet gateway. So it's not showing here. We have created internet gateway. If you verify, there is internet gateway we have here. Because it's not attached to VPC. Now let's attach it to VPC. Select internet gateway, attach to VPC, and select VPC and attach. Okay, now let's go to route tables, routes, edit routes. So we are going to add default route entry via internet gateway. So there we select internet gateway and save changes. Okay, so that's it. We have our own isolated section within Singapore region. How we got that? By creating VPC. Then we have our own isolated sections for availability zone by creating subnets. Then we have internet connectivity using internet gateway. There is a physical internet connectivity. To provide routes, we updated route table with a default route entry. Okay, now if you want to launch servers, so we use EC2 service, Elastic Computing 2 service. So EC2 service that allows you to create virtual machines. Okay, it is the AWS offering of the most fundamental piece of cloud computing service. So that allows you to create virtual private servers in the cloud. Okay, so we call them as EC2 instances. Instances are nothing but virtual machines. Okay, so they run like a most common operating system, like you can run Windows operating system, or you can use Linux, BSD, okay, different type of operating systems you can run here. Okay, so which operating systems you can run on AWS environment? For that, you can visit AWS Marketplace. Okay, there it lists all available softwares, means which operating systems you can run on AWS using EC2 service here. So EC2 provides researchable compute capacity. Anytime you can scale up and scale down your server. So you create EC2 instance, means you create a virtual machine. While creating that, you select which OS you want and which in VM type you want, like you want small servers, nano servers, medium-sized servers, or large, extra large. What is the difference? They come with a different hardware configuration. Okay, like in case memory, in case CPU, okay, like that. Okay, so what we do now, let's launch one virtual machine on AWS cloud, and we log into that and we host a sample service. So here I'm in AWS management console, and we can go to all services, compute, and here we can see different type of compute solutions provided by AWS. Like EC2, you can create virtual machine, then log in, then set up whatever environment required for your application. Means you log into instance, install required dependencies and runtime, then host your application code and data. Or you can go with Elastic Beanstalk, other service that's provided as platform as service. Let's go to EC2. Select your region. And here we see the instances. Instances are nothing but virtual machines. So click on launch instance. And it's asking how many instances you are going to launch. Okay, let's say 1. So if you want to launch 10 instances or 100 instances, you can specify the number here. And it's asking what is your instance name. Let's call it as VM1, virtual machine 1. Give whatever meaningful name tag you want to give. Let's say, for example, this is Linux. Let's say I'm going to use this VM for web hosting. I say web VM1. The next step, we need to select AMI, Amazon Machine Image. It's nothing but your operating system image. Okay, so you can browse for more AMIs. Okay, here you can see different AMIs available like Amazon Linux, Ubuntu, Red Hat, SUSE Linux. If you want to search for available AMI, so you can search from here. Okay, you can type a keyword here. You can search for particular AMI here. Or you just open a browser and you go for AWS Marketplace. There you can see different type of AMIs available, means from different categories, like only operating system images or security operating system images, DevOps related, analytics related, different kind of OSs you can see here. So right now we can see AWS Marketplace provides how many AMIs here within Singapore region. It's a 5,000 plus here. Okay, and here we can see Amazon Linux 2, and you can see like Mac OS, and you can see Debian operating system and Windows operating system, okay, like that. Okay, what I do, so let me launch one VM using Amazon Linux 2. Click on select. Okay, scroll down. So I selected Amazon Linux 2 AMI here. Then instance type, okay, that is VM type. So here we can see different type of VMs, like micro VM that comes with 1 CPU core and 1 GB memory. And you can see pricing also there. Like a C5 A lot that comes with 2 CPU cores, like 4 GB memory. And you can see pricing as well here. Okay, if you are using this type of VM, in case of Linux OS, so this is the charge per hour, 0.088 cents. In case you are using Windows OS, so this is the charge here. So you can see what is the hardware configuration here, means how many CPUs, cores, and how much RAM, and also you can see pricing. Okay, I will go with the T2 micro VM. Okay, that comes with 1 CPU core and 1 GB memory, and we can see pricing as well. So next we have key pair. So we need to create a key pair. Okay, click on create new key pair, and let's give some key name. Okay, let's call it as Linux-Web-VM1. So give whatever meaningful name you want. And here we can see the key type. Okay, what is key pair? It's based on PK, public key infrastructure. What it's going to do, it's going to create a public key and private key. Okay, and you select key pair type, algorithm you can select, and file format, you can go with the .pem or .ppk. I will go with the .pem, then click on create key pair. Okay, what happened actually, it's created a key pair, means it's created public key and private key. So whatever downloaded in my local machine, that is private key. And whatever the public key, that is going to available to our VM, which is going to be created. So why we created key pair here? So as we are launching Linux VM, okay, so where we are launching that Linux VM in Singapore region, but how we can log into that VM? Using remote access. Means we are going to use remote access mechanism, either Telnet or SSH. So Telnet is not secure, we go with SSH. Okay, by default, SSH server pre-configured on that image. And SSH can be authenticated in 2 ways. One is using just username password, and another method is using username and key. So compared to username and password, username and key based authentication provides more security. So that's why we created a key pair here. So we use this private key when we are going to log into that VM. And what will be the username? The default username is ec2-user. So when you are going to log into this Linux VM, we use username as ec2-user and this private key. Once you log in, you want to add additional users and you want to change authentication methods, you can do that. Okay, so we created a key pair. Next, we have network settings. It's going to place by default inside main network VPC, subnet is 3. If you want to edit, you can click on edit. So we are going to place it in VPC main network 1 because I have only 1 VPC here. You can have more than 1 VPC in a region. Let's say I'm going to place it inside subnet 1. That means AZ1A. Coming to auto assign public IP address, you can do automatically assignment or you can do manual assignment. What is the difference between automatically assignment, manual assignment? In case automatically assignment, let's say you stopped that VM, then started that VM, your public IP address will change. Okay, if you want fixed public IP address for your VM, so you go with manual assignment. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to auto assign here because this is the testing environment. Then coming to security group, it is a virtual firewall for this VM. Okay, of course, Linux will have internal firewall like IP tables like that. Apart from that, security group, it's a virtual firewall solution provided from AWS to protect your VM. So let's give some name for this security group. Let's call it as web servers security group. And it's going to add by default an inbound rule. So security group includes like inbound rule, outbound rule. By default, all outbound traffic permitted to any destination. Coming to inbound rule, it's by default adding SSH from anywhere. Means anybody can make SSH login to this VM if they know public IP address of this VM and they know username and if they have private key. So let's go with the default rule. Then if you expand advanced configuration, this is the network configuration. If you want to provide primary IP address, means private IP address for your VM from your subnet range, you can provide it. For example, let's say it's a 10.0.1.30. Okay, that is our subnet 1 range. Okay, so by default, this wizard adding 1 NIC card to VM. If you want to add additional NIC cards, you can add now or you can add later on. So coming to storage, it's adding a root volume. Okay, this is EBS volume actually. EBS, elastic block storage. That's nothing but virtual hard disk. So it's adding about 8 GB EBS volume. Okay, so if you want to increment size, you can increment. If you want to add additional EBS volume, you can add here. So think it's just a virtual hard disk. Okay, then number of instances, 1. So it just shows the summary. Number of instances 1, which OS, instance type, and security group, creating new, and only one virtual hard disk, which is 8 GB, those information. Okay, before we create, if you expand advanced details, we can see many options over here. Like you can pass like a user data here, bootstrap script, and you can select other things like a tenancy options. And you can see, like if you want to add a graphics card, you have elastic GPUs, and then you have other things like instance auto recovery, shutdown behavior, many things are there. So we discuss about these features in coming live sessions. We'll have a separate session called as EC2 features. So for now, let's look at this termination protection. So you can enable it. So it is going to protect from accidental deleting. Okay, if somebody select this VM1 and trying to delete, it will be not allowed to delete unless you go to the properties, you disable that. And one more option you have, shutdown behavior. Okay, as we are placing this instance in Singapore, we remotely log in. Okay, let's say you are remotely connected to this VM and you give shutdown command or shutdown instruction from your remote window. What's going to happen to this VM? You can say stop it, means just shut down that VM, or we can say terminate. Terminate means what? It's going to delete your VM. Okay, so if option is like select, what is the default behavior? It is going to be stop. Okay, now let's click on launch instance. So we selected Linux, so it just takes a matter of like 1 or 2 minutes to finish booting. Now click on view all instances. And here we see Linux web VM1, so that's coming online. And here we see instance state pending, and instance type is micro, and we have something status check here. Okay, so you can see status check here. System status check is green. Instance status check is green here. So what this thing represents? This thing represents health check. This one represents system status check. Okay, it represents your virtual machine hardware health. Okay, is hardware is healthy where your VM1 is running. Instance status check represents your OS health. Like, is it successfully booted? Is it able to access network? Means our VPC network. Okay, in case, okay, like something goes wrong, like your OS not successfully booted, or let's say this OS got some issue about accessing VPC network, you can see this will fail here. Okay, so usually, so you can restart your VM. Mostly this issue will be resolved. In case status check about system fails, that means underlying hardware health of this VM. So what AWS says, if somehow system status check fails, your VM move to another healthy host. Okay, so now let's log into this VM. So this is the Linux machine. So we are going to do login using SSH. So my local machine is window. Windows. Okay, on Windows machine by default there is no pre-installed SSH client tool. We need to install. Okay, like we can install like a PuTTY tool, or we can install Open SSH client tool. In case Mac or Windows, mostly you can see pre-installed SSH client tool. If not, okay, just go install SSH client tool. Okay, so what I do, I'm going to install OpenSSH client tool on Windows machine. Okay, for that, we need to type a PowerShell command. Let's get that command from Microsoft documentation. Just type OpenSSH client. Okay, just OpenSSH for Windows. OpenSSH for Windows. So take the link from docs.microsoft.com. And here we scroll down. And here we can see install OpenSSH client. So we need to run this PowerShell command. Let's copy this command and open PowerShell with administrative privileges. Click on Run as Administrator. Okay, again, okay, there it is. Then just hit enter. It's going to download OpenSSH client package and going to install. Okay, on my local machine, I already have OpenSSH client tool installed. I'm going to run, not going to run this command. Let's close this page. So we've opened either CMD or PowerShell window. Once installed OpenSSH client tool, we can use normal CMD or we can use SSH, we can use a PowerShell to do SSH login. So let me open PowerShell window. And we say SSH, username is ec2-user at. We need to know what is the public IP address of that VM. So let's go get public IP address, go to the details. This is the public IP address. Then we specify -i, then we specify path for the private key file. So we need to know where is this file located. Where is this file located? So you can just click on show in folder. So it shows the file is located in this part. See users, admins, and download. So we need to provide the complete path for that file to log in. Okay, so in my case, it's in C:users admin downloads. And the key name is Linux web vm1.web. Enter. It is asking, are you sure you want to continue connecting? Yes. It shows some error. It says permission for this file is to open. So I have multiple user accounts on this machine. So that's why it's giving error. So we need to have like a minimal permission to that file, like single user access to that file. Okay, so let me check this file. Let's go to this file. Let me set minimal permission set on this file. Just go to properties, security, advanced, disable inheritance, select the first option, okay, and click on edit. So there are two user accounts like Gene admin. So currently I'm logged in into my local machine using admin. So let's remove access for this file. Okay, okay. Okay, so in case Linux, so you can use chmod command to set permission set on your file. So you can run command like chmod 400, then file name. So that's going to grant permission to, okay, currently logged in user on that local machine. Okay, now let's recall SSH login command. Enter. There it is. So we are connected to that VM. As a sample service, let me just install a web service here. So we are logged in using Ec2-User to run administrative commands on this Linux VM. We can append sudo before typing command, or we can switch to root account, then we run administrative commands. Okay, let me install a web package. So before that, in production, it's good practice to update. So you say yum y update. It's going to update your system. Okay, it's going to install updated packages. I'm not going to run this command because it's going to take like 10 to 10 minutes. Okay, let's install Apache Web Service like my install. Package name is HTTPD. Okay, that is the Apache web package. Okay, now let me set some home page. So I'm going to use Nano. It's a simple text editor tool. We can use it to create text and read text. So I'm going to place the content inside word www HTML. So this is the default web root directory. So whatever content you place under this directory, it served through your Apache Web Service to client. Okay, let's say it's going to be index.html. Let's say welcome to home page. Control X, Y, enter. If you want to create additional pages, you can create. Let's call it as page1.html. This is page 1. Okay, I'm just putting some dummy data here. In production, you can have your actual HTML, other script files here. Now let's start this web service. So I type service HTTPD start. So service command user to start, restart, or stop the services you run on Linux machine. Okay, or you can use other command, which is system control command. To check the status, service HTTPD status, we can say it's active, green, running. If somebody reboots this VM, means let's say I reboot this VM1, this Apache web service is not going to start automatically. To make sure it restarts whenever I reboot this VM, I run one more command, chkconfig HTTPD on. Okay, there it is. We just installed sample web service. In real time, you can have web service or app service, database service, okay, like that. Now let's go try access that website. Let's get its public IP address. I've opened another tab, paste and go. I'm not able to access because look at the security section of this VM. We have a security group attached, which is web servers -sg. As an inbound, it's allowing only port number 22, SSH. So it's dropping our HTTP request. So let me change that rule. Select the security group and coming to outbound rule, you can say it's allowing all outbound traffic to any destination. Coming to inbound, edit inbound rule, add rule, HTTP, from which source? From any source. So click on save the rule. Now let's go open another tab and visit the website. Okay, so we got home page, want to visit particular page like page 1.html. Okay, not found. Okay, so what is the pages I have created over there? It's the content of word www html. Okay, that's p1.html actually. Enter. Can access it. Okay, there it is. Okay, so in matter of minutes, so what we did? So we set up our own isolated environment in Singapore by creating VPC. Then we created subnets for our availability zone. Then we created internet gateway attached to VPC. Then updated routing table. Means we created VPC with internet reachability. Then what we did? We just selected choice of operating system image. Then we selected instance type. Then we selected in which VPC, in which subnet, which security group, and other options. Then launched instance. Okay, so it just took a matter of minutes. Okay, to run server and make service available to public, or you can make service available to private, like to your on-premise network. Okay, like that. Okay, so that is about basic VPC and EC2. VPC allows you to set virtual network on AWS cloud, and EC2 service allows you to create what means platform on AWS cloud, means within VPC. Okay, so now let's clean up the resources. Let's navigate to instances. We have Linux Web VM1. and select actions, not actions, instance state and terminate. So here you see the option stop is shutdown, and you have the reboot option here, and the hibernate option is not highlighted. So this feature we can turn on while creating VM, not later on. Okay, next terminate. Terminate means delete. Once deleted, it is gone. Unless you made some backup, you cannot recover it. So let's terminate instance. So click on terminate. It's going to be terminated. So first it's going to shut down, then it's going to terminate this VM. Okay, it's going to terminate VM, and also it's going to terminate the virtual hard disk, that 8 GB attached to that EBS volume. And also it's going to delete automatically assigned public IP address. And coming to network interface, there is a virtual network card attached to VPC that also deleted. And if you go to the dashboard, okay, here we can see instances running 0, and security group still it's there. Okay, if you want to delete security group as well, you can delete it. Okay, so next coming to VPC. So we have that VPC, which is custom VPC. If you want to clean up those VPC as well, you can clean up. Okay, anyhow, for VPC, there is no charge for VPC, subnets, those things. So you can keep them. Okay, so that's about today live session. It's about basic Ec2 VPC. Okay, so thank you for watching this session, guys. Got any questions? So you can ask your questions in comment section.
Sir, I have a question.
Yes.
Sir, can I launch any OS VM on cloud?
So in AWS Marketplace, you can see most popular operating system, means whatever the most commonly usable operating system, like a Windows platform or Linux platform. And you can also see OS available from like a different vendor as well, like networking operating systems, security operating systems, like ASF firewall, Palo Alto firewall, okay, like that. So you can find availability of operating system from AWS Marketplace.
Okay, sir.
Okay, many vendors, they publish ready to use operating system images on AWS cloud. So to run a particular OS within your EC2, you no need to contact any particular vendor. Like you want to run Windows, you no need to contact Windows. Microsoft means you want to run Red Hat, you no need to contact Red Hat. Means you no need to purchase separately. Like you want to run Palo Alto, you no need to purchase it from Palo Alto. Okay, so from AWS Marketplace, you can check for availability. But most commonly available operating systems available in AWS. So you can see different categories over here: OS, security software, networking, data analytics softwares, DevOps related softwares, many things. So for example, let's say you want to run a Palo Alto VM, so you can check for availability. There you can see Palo Alto Networks Cloud NGFW pay-as-you-go model. You can also try it as free trial. And if you select that product, so you can see information.
Okay, sir.
Okay, you can subscribe it and you can start launching a VM using this OS. So here you can see pricing information also. And other things you can see here, Palo Alto Network Pronoma. And there also you can say bring your own license. So means you will be not charged for software, you'll be charged for VM hardware. So here you can see estimated charges, but actual pricing here you can see. Okay, instance type, software charge, and VM charge means hardware charge. Maybe you are looking for some voice related products, you can type here and you can see related softwares available over here. Like voice for software as service that provided as software as service, like 3CX phone system, there. Okay, guys, thank you for watching.